This content is created only for entertainment purposes. It does not contain nudes or scenes of violence or spam or promotion to external sites. Its only objective is to provide fun to the public. With nothing more to say, let's start with the movie, and I hope you enjoy it. Don't forget to watch the video until the end and leave your like and comment. Trunks would wake up. This was knocked down by Gohan, who went to face Seoul or the androids. The city is gray and it is raining, and finally he finds him lying in a puddle, apparently lifeless. Trunks, looking at his teacher, runs towards him, fearing the worst. But when he touches him, he realizes one thing, and it is that he still breathes, he still retains vital signs. Without wasting time, Trunks flew at full speed towards the Capsule Corporation, where when he arrived, Bulma was waiting for them. His face showed fatigue and concern, but his eyes were still firm, full of determination. He ordered Gohan to be taken immediately to the medical laboratory, activating machines, capsules, and systems that he had adapted for years to work practically alone. Gohan remained unconscious for days. Bulma did not separate from the monitors, adjusting treatments, while Trunks watched in silence, clenching his fists, blaming himself for not being strong enough. When Gohan finally woke up, Bulma let go of the air she had held for so long. Gohan, with a weak but serene voice, would say that they had survived for a reason, that the future was not yet completely lost. Bulma sighed, answering that while there was only one capable of thinking and a single warrior willing to fight, there still was hope. It was then that they made the decision. They would not go out to fight again. They would not challenge the androids again until they had a real alternative. They would lock themselves in the Capsule Corporation, train without rest, and Bulma would finish the time machine she had been developing for years. The months passed. Bulma worked day and night, adjusting impossible calculations, correcting errors in time, while Gohan and Trunks trained in reinforced underground areas. Gohan, despite the sequels of his wounds, polished his control of the Super Saiyan, becoming more precise, more efficient. Trunks grew at an impressive speed. His power increased with each session. His spirit hardened. In the few moments of calm, Bulma spoke of the past, of how the world was before the chaos. Gohan completed those stories with memories of Goku and the Z Warriors, and Trunks listened attentively, recording each word like a silent promise. Finally, the day came. The time machine arose in the center of the hangar, complete, imposing, ready to challenge the flow of fate. The lights went on, the systems were stable, the coordinates fixed. Bulma observed his creation with a mixture of pride and sadness. He would say that that invention was not only a machine, but the last opportunity in the world. Trunks clenched his fists, determined. Gohan, leaning on a wall, looked at the capsule and would say that that trip was not to flee, but to change everything from the root. The hangar of the Capsule Corporation remained silent, broken only by the constant buzzing of the time machine already activated. The lights illuminated the metal capsule, while the systems finished stabilizing the coordinates. Gohan and Trunks were standing in front of her, both with serious expressions, aware that that step had no immediate return. Bulma watched them with her arms crossed, trying to hide the mixture of pride, fear, and sadness that ran through her face. Trunks turned to her with his fists clenched, saying that it did not matter what happened, that this time they would do it well, that the past must not repeat the hell they had lived. Bulma responded with a firm, although trembling voice, saying that she trusted both, that she did not doubt their strength, and that they would return alive, because that future still needed them. Gohan took a step forward, looked at Bulma with a serene smile, would say that everything he was, everything he had learned, he owed it to her and that broken world, that they did not fight only for revenge, but so that no one else had to grow between ruins. Bulma sighed, supporting a hand on her chest, asking them to be careful, that time was not something that could be taken lightly. Without further ado, they both entered the capsule. The door closed slowly. Bulma stepped back a few steps while the engine roared with more force. A white flash filled the hangar, and in an instant, the machine disappeared, leaving behind an even heavier silence. The time was doubled. The capsule emerged from the temporal void and appeared in a clear sky, on an intact, vibrant, alive Earth. Below, a monstrous energy shook the atmosphere. Frieza and his father, King Cold, had just arrived on the planet. Their presence froze the air, and in front of them were the Z warriors, tense, prepared for a battle they knew was almost impossible. Goku was not there yet. Suddenly, a wind exploded caught their attention. The time machine descended and landed not far from the battlefield. The metal opened, and two unknown young men came out of it. Krillin instinctively retreated. He would say that he did not feel their energies as something normal, that there was something strange about them. Piccolo closed his eyes, noticing a contained, dangerous power, different from everything he had perceived. Vegeta, with his arms crossed, watched in silence, irritated, wondering who dared to interrupt that moment. Bulma of the past took a hand to her chest, confused, trying to understand where that impossible machine had come from. Yamcha and Chaos alternately looked at Frieza and the newcomers, not knowing if that was a threat or a miracle. Gohan and Trunks advanced a few steps, placing themselves in front of Frieza and King Cold. Trunks looked at Frieza with absolute coldness. He would say that that monster had destroyed more than he could imagine, and that day his story ended there. Frieza let out a mocking laugh, asking who these children were who believed they could defy him. Then, without prior notice, Trunks released his power. A golden explosion shook the place. The ground crumbled, the wind roared, and the blue hair turned golden. The aura of the Super Saiyan enveloped his body. Krillin opened his eyes at the same time, unable to believe what he saw. Yamcha could hardly articulate a word. Vegeta felt something breaking inside him, refusing to accept that vision. Trunks disappeared in an instant. Frieza had barely time to react. A flash, a dry sound, and his body was pierced at a brutal speed. Trunks appeared behind him, the sword already enwrapped in energy, and in a single movement, he reduced him to pieces, which were erased by a burst of ki without giving him any chance. The silence was absolute. Before anyone could react, Gohan advanced. His figure, marked by the absence of an arm, emanated a terrifying calm. He looked at King Cold with contained for contained. He would say that it did not matter how many forms his lineage had, that none would survive in that world. His power exploded. The golden aura enveloped him. The Super Saiyan manifested with a raw, ferocious intensity. Piccolo squeezed his teeth, aware that this young man possessed comparable or even superior power to the other. Gohan appeared in front of King Cold and without hesitation concentrated his energy in a single devastating attack that pierced the body of the tyrant, completely disintegrating it. It all ended in seconds. The Z warriors remained motionless, unmoved. Krillin muttered that it was impossible. Yamcha did not stop looking at the place where Frieza had been seconds before. Chaos could barely breathe. Bulma of the past observed the scene with her mind blank, trying to process what happened. Vegeta trembled, not of fear, but of rage and confusion, wondering who those two young men were, and how the hell they had reached a power that he still did not understand. And then Gohan and Trunks turned slowly, their gazes crossed with those of the Z warriors. The silence that remained after the fall of Frieza and King Cold was heavy, almost unreal. The Z warriors remained motionless, with their eyes fixed on the two unknown young men, trying to understand what they had just witnessed. Nobody spoke, but the questions accumulated in the air. Krillin was the first to break that stillness, with a mixture of disbelief and nervousness. How would he say who they were, where they had come from, and how was it possible that they had defeated Frieza so easily? Yamcha felt still looking at the sky as if he expected that everything was an illusion that would fade at any moment. Piccolo watched in silence, analyzing every detail. His attention was especially on the young man with only one arm. Something in his posture, in his energy, was disturbingly familiar to him. Gohan, the boy, took a step forward, looking at him with his eyes wide open, feeling a strange connection that he could not explain, as if that presence was close to him in a profound way. Tenshinhan, with his arms crossed, would say that he did not feel evil in them, that if they had wanted to destroy the Earth, nothing could have stopped them, and the fact that they saved everyone was not something that could be ignored. The two young men remained silent. Trunks kept his sword and deactivated his aura, without answering the questions. Gohan of the future lowered his head slightly, avoiding any unnecessary explanation. Finally, one of them would calmly say that they were not enemies, that they had not come to fight against them, and that they would soon understand. Krillin released the air that he had been containing. He would say that if they really were not enemies, then they owed them their lives. Piccolo slowly ascended, recognizing that without his intervention, none of them would be standing there. The young man with one arm raised his gaze and added that Goku would arrive soon, that they would not worry, that they would wait for him. Those words provoked immediate reactions. Gohan Child smiled with relief. Krillin was visibly calmer. Tenshinhan closed his eyes for a moment, awaiting in silence. Vegeta, on the other hand, did not share that calm. Trunks had turned his head and watched him closely. It was not a challenging look, but loaded with something deeper, a mixture of analysis, curiosity, observing the one who was his father, the one he had never met in his timeline, now was in front of him. Vegeta noticed it immediately and exploded, screaming that he was looking at him so much that he stopped observing him as if he were some kind of weird bug. Trunks did not respond. He simply looked away, remaining silent. Piccolo then noticed something else, the resemblance. The young Manco had disturbingly similar features to Goku and also to Gohan. It was not just the hair or the structure of the face, it was the essence, the way in which his energy manifested itself. Gohan Child also noticed it, looking at him with curiosity and a strange feeling in the chest, as if he were being reflected in a future that he still did not understand. Bulma of the past observed both young men carefully, especially the strange clothes, which wore the logo of the Capsule Corporation. The Z warriors exchanged glances. Part of them remained alert, aware that they did not know anything about those mysterious Saiyajins, but another part, especially Krillin, Tenshinhan, Piccolo, and Gohan, felt a genuine relief. Not only had they saved them, but they did not transmit any hostility, and the gaze of the armless subject brought them a comforting peace. The tension was still floating in the air when a new energy appeared in the sky. Krillin was the first to notice it and point upwards. He would say that that presence could not be confused with any other. A moment later, a figure descended at great speed and landed gently in front of the group. It was Goku, who would get off his ship with his typical clothes of the planet Yadrat. Goku's arrival would excite everyone present. Even Gohan of the future could not hide a smile after so many years without having seen his father. Goku had arrived. He observed the place, the remains of the ship, the total absence of Frieza and King Cold, and then he looked at the two unknown young men. He smiled naturally, scratching his head. He would say that he seemed to have missed something important. The Z-Warriors began to speak all at once, trying to explain to him the impossible of the situation. But before he could understand anything, one of the young men took a step forward. Trunks, with a serious and direct voice, would say that they needed to talk to him, that it was important, and that it had to be in private. Goku tilted his head slightly, noticing the weight of his words, and accepted it without hesitation. Without adding anything else, the three Saiyajins rose and moved at great speed, getting lost in the distance. The Z-Warriors stayed watching the sky, confused, unrest, trying to guess what could be as important as to set Goku apart just after what happened. Krillin would say that he didn't like that at all. Yamcha would feel nervous. Tenshinhan would remain serious, while Bulma alternately looked at the point where they had disappeared and the strange machine they had left behind. Vegeta, with his arms crossed, clenched his teeth, annoyed by not knowing what was happening. Only Piccolo remained motionless, in silence. Far away, in a remote place, the three stopped. Goku looked at them curiously, wondering what they needed to tell him so urgently. That is when Trunks began to speak. Trunks would say that they were not of that time, that they came from the future, from a devastated timeline. Goku opened his eyes with surprise, but did not interrupt. The young man continued, explaining that in that future some androids appeared, machines with monstrous power that raised everything, cities, people, warriors, without leaving anything standing. Gohan of the future took a step forward. With a calm voice but loaded with weight, would say that those androids killed all the Z-Warriors, one by one, and that even Goku died, not in combat, but from a heart disease that no one could cure. Goku kept silent when he heard that. His smile disappeared, and he stayed silent for the first time. Trunks added that the subject in front of him was Gohan, his son, in the future, who became the last defender of the planet for years, and who lost his arm in one of his last battles against the androids. Goku stared at the young man, noticing then the impossible resemblance of ignoring, not only physical, but spiritual. Gohan of the future lowered his gaze a bit, and would say that he fought as far as he could, that he trained Trunks, that they tried everything, but that his world was doomed and did not change in the past. Trunks took a deep breath and revealed the last thing. Would say that he was Vegeta and Bulma's son. Those words hit Goku hard. He was completely surprised, alternately pointing to the young man and then imagining the impossible combination, wondering how something like that could be real. Even so, instead of denying it, he smiled nervously, scratching his head. Would say that the future was really something complicated. In the distance, the Z-Warriors watched without understanding anything. They saw Goku talking seriously with the two young men. They noticed that something important was happening, but they could not hear a single word. Vegeta groaned impatiently. Krillin did not stop moving. Bulma tried to analyze every gesture. Piccolo, on the other hand, remained completely still. His ear captured every word, every revelation, every fragment of that dark future. His eyes opened slightly, understanding the magnitude of what he had just heard. He said nothing, did not interrupt, did not react externally. But inside him, he knew that fate had just changed, and that nothing, absolutely nothing, would go back to the course it should. Silence prevailed again after the revelations. Goku remained thoughtful, looking at both young men, assimilating a future that he would never have imagined. It was then that Gohan of the future took a step forward, his firm, determined expression. Gohan would say that they needed his help, that in his time they had fought alone against the androids, that they resisted as much as they could, but that this time it could not be repeated the same, that they had to face them together. Goku bowed his head, interested, but before answering, Gohan added that before he wanted to check something. Would say that he needed to know if his father was as powerful as them. Without waiting for an answer, Gohan's aura exploded. His golden energy rose with contained violence. The Super Saiyan emerged once again. The ground trembled slightly under his feet. The wind swirled around him. Goku observed carefully, surprised by the level of control and strength he perceived in his son of the future. Smiling, Goku responded in the same way. His power was released naturally. The golden aura enveloped his body. The Super Saiyan appeared effortlessly. His presence was stable, overwhelming, calm. Without a word more, they both launched into combat. From a distance, the Z-Warriors observed how two golden auras collided in the sky. Krillin opened his eyes in pairs, unable to follow the movements. Yamcha barely distinguished flashes. Tenshin Han felt how the pressure of combat ran through his body. Vegeta squeezed his teeth, observing each movement with silent fury. The confrontation, however, was brief. Goku dodged each attack with absolute ease, moving calmly, almost relaxed. Gohan attacked with precision and brutal force, but each blow was stopped, deflected, or neutralized. In an instant, Goku appeared in front of him and with a single finger pressed his forehead, throwing Gohan a couple of meters back. The fight ended there. Gohan was pushed back by the pure difference of power, falling several meters before stabilizing in the air. He remained motionless for a few seconds, breathing with difficulty, surprised, not by defeat, but by the absolute dominance. But he would smile, knowing that his father's power was high enough, and also to live with his father once again. And it is that he, really from Raditz's things, had not been able to live with him. The Z-Warriors were in complete shock. Krillin would murmur that it made no sense. Yamcha could not believe what he had just seen. Tenshin Han remained serious, understanding that the gap was immense. Vegeta trembled with rage, seeing how Kakarot surpassed even those Saiyajins of the future. Gohan of the future deactivated his transformation and smiled slightly. Would say that now he understood that with a power like that, this time the androids would have no opportunity. Then he looked at Goku and asked him to go with them, that together they could end that threat before it was born. Goku answered without hesitation, would say that he would love to face those androids, that if they were as strong as they said, it would be a good fight, and that also he could not allow a future like that to exist. Trunks would sin in silence. However, Goku raised a finger and clarified that before, he had to explain something to his friends, that he could not simply disappear without saying anything. Gohan and Trunks of the future accepted, understanding the importance of that moment. Both returned to the time machine and waited. Goku got up and flew back to the place where the Z-Warriors were. Everyone looked at him instantly, full of questions, tension, and confusion. Goku landed in front of them with a more serious expression than usual, knowing that what he was about to say would change everything. Goku took a breath, willing to explain everything he had heard, but before he could open his mouth, Piccolo took a step forward. His deep and firm voice cut the atmosphere. Would say that he would be in charge of explaining it, which would be easier that way. Would add that he would not reveal the identity of the blue-haired boy, at least not yet. Goku looked at him surprised for a few seconds, then smiled calmly, assented, fully trusting him. Piccolo turned to the Z-Warriors, all attentive, tense. Would say that what they were about to hear was not easy to accept, but they had to do it. He explained that in a few years some androids would appear, artificial creations with an uncommon power, far superior to that of Frieza and of his father, enemies against whom even all of them together would have no chance. Krillin swallowed saliva. Yamcha felt a chill. Tenshin Han squeezed his fists. Vegeta frowned internally, denying that something could surpass Frieza in that way. Piccolo continued, saying that to avoid that future, Goku had to go face them before that disaster occurred, and that he would not do it alone, but accompanied by those two young men who had come from the future. Then he pointed to the subject with one arm and added with absolute seriousness that one of them was Gohan. The impact was immediate. Gohan of the past opened his eyes in amazement, slowly turning his head to look at the young Manco. He observed himself, taller, more serious, marked by war and loss. He felt a mixture of confusion, admiration, and a deep fear that he could not explain. Gohan Boy took a step forward, and with a trembling but determined voice would tell his father to come back alive, to get stronger and not let that future come true. Goku bent down in front of him, put a hand on his head, and with a calm smile would say that this would be, that he would not worry, that he would return. Krillin tried to say something, but the words did not come out. Bulma alternately looked at Goku and the time machine, her mind full of questions. Vegeta watched in silence, with a hard expression, although deep down he understood that something huge was happening. Goku joined in and said goodbye one by one. He clenched his fist in front of Tenshin Han, leaned towards Yamcha, exchanged a serious look with Vegeta, and finally looked at Piccolo, thanking him without words. Without adding anything else, he rose in the air and flew towards the time machine, where Gohan and Trunks of the future were waiting for him in silence. The capsule closed once more, the systems were activated, and a new flash enveloped the place. Before the atonic gaze of the Z-Warriors, the machine disappeared. Goku had left for the future of Trunks. The time machine emerged with a dry rumble and landed between twisted rubble and metal. The air was heavy, loaded with dust and silence. Goku was the first to leave, and by doing so, his expression changed completely. In front of him, the future extended. The Capsule Corporation was in ruins, collapsed walls, burnt structures, remains of technology that once represented progress and hope. Goku observed the place with a serious look, feeling the weight of that devastated world. He clenched his fists slowly. A deep sadness crossed his gaze, but there was no doubt in his heart he would defeat those androids. Gohan and Trunks descended behind him. Both knew that landscape too well, and yet the presence of Goku made everything feel different, as if for the first time the future had a real opportunity. Goku advanced towards the interior of the building, dodging metal remains and cracked walls. When crossing one of the damaged doors, a figure stopped in the dry, treating himself as Bulma, who, when he saw him, his eyes opened completely. For a second, he was motionless, as if he feared it was an illusion, but then the tears began to fall uncontrollably. He ran towards him and hugged him tightly, clinging as if he feared that he would disappear again. Bulma, with a broken voice, would say that she could not believe it, that after so long, after having lost him, seeing him there was like a miracle. Goku responded to the hug gently, supporting a hand on his back, aware that although for him he had seen Bulma recently, for her years of pain and resistance had passed. Goku, with a calm but respectful smile, would say that he was glad to see her, that he had gone through a lot, and that now he was not alone. Bulma barely stood up, drying her tears, answering that she never thought she would see him alive again. That hug gave him the strength he thought he had lost. Gohan watched the scene in silence, understanding what it meant. Then he took a step forward and with a firm tone would say that they could not waste any more time, that it was time to go hunt those androids before they destroyed something else again. Trunks felt determined, his eyes lit up, ready for what was to come. Goku released the hug and looked at both, smiling. Gohan, looking at him, would be happy. He felt that this time, with the presence of his father, things could be different. The city lay destroyed, buildings split in half, streets turned into smoking craters, and between the ruins, two figures walked with total carefree. The androids laughed as they launched random attacks, reducing the little that was left to dust and fire, enjoying the chaos as if it were a simple hobby. Goku, Gohan, and Trunks descended from the sky and stopped on a destroyed avenue. The impact of their arrival raised a cloud of dust, which immediately caught the attention of the androids. Both turned slowly, watching them with mocking smiles. Android 17, with relaxed arms, would say in a funny tone that go, that apparently their toys had decided to play again. Android 18 smiled aside, running them with the look, but then something changed. His eyes stopped in Goku. The carefree expression of both broke for a moment. Android 17 frowned slightly, looking twice, making sure he was not wrong. Android 18 nodded, clearly confused. They would say that it did not make sense, that Goku should have died years ago from a disease, that they remembered him that way, that that man could not be there. Goku remained silent, calmly watching them, his gaze firm. Android 17 would then say that it did not matter, that alive or dead did not matter, that now they could fulfill their original goal and end him with their own hands. Android 18 laughed a little, saying that maybe fate was giving them a second chance to have fun. Gohan took a step forward, his aura beginning to shake the air around him. With anger contained, he would scream that this time it was over, that they would not allow them to continue destroying that world, that they would defeat them once and for all. Android 18 looked at him with interest, smiling with certain emotion, and would say that she wanted to attack Goku first, which after all was the one that caused him most curiosity. Android 17 nodded without hesitation, giving him a step. In the next moment, Android 18's body disappeared in a flash. The ground exploded under her feet when she threw herself directly at Goku. Her speed was brutal. The air split at her step. Android 18 threw herself like a lightning, her punch charged with energy pointing directly at Goku's face. The moment the attack was going to hit, Goku's power exploded uncontrollably. His golden aura enveloped his body, and the Super Saiyan emerged immediately, firm and stable. The blow was stopped. For a fraction of a second, it seemed that everything was under control. Goku held the android's fist with one hand, the ground crumbling under his feet. Gohan and Trunks watched attentively, waiting for his father to show the difference of power they had seen before. But then the reality fell like a blow. Android 18 smiled. With a sudden movement, she turned her body. She threw a direct kick to the side of Goku, sending him to crash into a nearby building. Before he could react, she was already in front of him again. The blows began to fall one after another, fast, precise, cruel. Punches, knees, kicks that didn't leave room to breathe. Goku tried to respond, block, counterattack, but each movement was anticipated. His body was shaken by a humiliating amount of blows, crossing walls, falling on the ground, getting up just to be knocked down again. The dry sound of each impact resonated throughout the destroyed city. Trunks squeezed his teeth. Gohan felt like something was breaking inside him. He couldn't stand it anymore. Gohan's aura exploded with fury. His hair turned golden, and the Super Saiyan emerged with a violent intensity. He threw himself at Android 18 with a scream of rage, determined to separate her from his father. But before arriving, a figure interrupted. Android 17 appeared in front of him and stopped his attack with ease. Holding his arm and smiling with fun, he would say that he should not meddle, that it was not yet his turn. Gohan struggled, trying to free himself, but the strength of 17 was overwhelming. Then, a brutal impact cut the scene. Android 17 was sent to fly at high speed, crossing several buildings before disappearing in the distance. Trunks appeared in his place with the golden aura on and the look full of determination. Gohan turned towards him and without hesitation would tell him to help his father, who he would take care of 17. Trunks immediately assented without wasting time. While Trunks threw himself at Goku and Android 18, Gohan turned his body and fixed his gaze at the point where 17 had fallen. His aura grew, his breathing became heavy, and his determination was absolute. Goku managed to incorporate himself while Trunks stood by his side, both with the golden aura on. Android 18 watched them with a smile, amused by the situation. Without wasting time, both Saiyajiners launched into the attack in a coordinated way, cross blows, ki bursts, and fast movements that at times managed to keep it on track. For several moments the fight was sustained. Goku and Trunks alternated, forcing the android to retreat a few meters. The ground was destroyed under each impact. The buildings ended up collapsing. In the distance, Gohan maintained an intense fight against Android 17, both exchanging direct blows, none yielding ground easily. It looked like a fair fight, but little by little the wear began to become evident. Goku's breathing became heavier, his movements began to lose precision. Trunks clenched his teeth, feeling how his muscles burned by the continuous effort. In front of them, Android 18 remained intact. His smile did not disappear, his rhythm did not decrease. On the other side, Gohan began to feel the same. Each blow against 17 cost him more. His only arm trembled, and although he continued to fight with pride, the android began to overcome him slowly, pushing him to the defensive. The androids noticed it. Android 18 let loose a laugh and would say it was fun, that Goku had returned from the grave just to die again, that nothing had really changed. Android 17 added with mockery that the future was still his, that no Saiyajin could escape that. Goku, with his body covered in blows and breathing with difficulty, looked up and smiled. he would say they were wrong, that he was not the Goku they knew, that this time he would not fight until he died uselessly, because now he knew exactly when to retreat. Before the androids reacted, Goku concentrated his energy, teleporting to where Gohan was, then to where Trunks was, and with his fingers in front of him, he would leave the site. Android 18 threw a blow into the void, frowning. Android 17 stopped in his tracks when he felt how the energies of the three Saiyajins vanished completely. Far from there, at the top of the world, the Kami-sama temple received a sudden gust of wind. Goku appeared in the center of the platform, barely standing, followed by Trunks and Gohan, both falling on their knees, exhausted and seriously injured. Mr. Popo immediately approached. His expression would be observing them carefully. Without saying a word, he led them inside the temple, aware that those warriors had reached the limit. The three Saiyajins remained there, breathing with difficulty, covered in wounds, but with something new in their eyes. Now they knew the truth. The androids were not an enemy that could be taken lightly, and the real battle had just begun. Mr. Popo observed them carefully, clearly more than confused. His gaze went from one to another, stopping especially in Gohan. After a few seconds of silence, he would say that it made no sense, that he had felt the disappearance of Goku years ago, that he had died of a disease, and that his presence there broke everything he knew about the flow of time. Goku, breathing there, calmly, explained to him that he was not the Goku of that timeline, which came from the past. He would add that Bulma had created a time machine, and that both Gohan and Trunks traveled to his time to look for it, because in that future the androids had destroyed everything and needed to change fate from the root. Mr. Popo scented slowly, understanding the seriousness of what he heard, accepting that paradox with the serenity that characterized it. Gohan, still recovering his breath, clenched his fist with frustration. He would say that he thought that with the help of his father it would be enough, that for the first time he believed that the battle was won, and that even so the androids had easily overcome them. His voice let out rage, fatigue, and a deep disappointment in himself. Goku approached him calmly and put a hand on his shoulder. With a serene smile, he would say that he understood how he felt, but that they should not be discouraged, because they were just in the best place possible to defeat those androids. Gohan looked up confused, wondering how he could say something like that when they had just been humiliated. He would say that he did not understand what he meant, that that place was nothing more than a refuge. Goku pointed towards the interior of the temple and explained that there was a special place there, a place where time flowed differently, where they could train for a full year while only one day passed outside. He told them about the habitation of time, its hardness, its limits, and how he could take them beyond what they believed possible in such little real time. Trunks opened his eyes in amazement. Gohan was completely surprised. Both looked at each other, processing what they had just heard. A whole year of concentrated training, an opportunity they had never had in their devastated future. Gohan, with a mix of disbelief and renewed hope, would say that if that was true, then they would finally have a real opportunity. Trunks nodded strongly, feeling that for the first time fate was not completely sealed. Mr. Popo watched the scene in silence, understanding that that moment marked a turning point. In this way, when Goku finished explaining the rules of the place, Mr. Popo would intervene with Vosaria, clarifying that only 2 people could enter the room of time at the same time, which was a strict limitation, and that they could not ignore it. Those words would fall like a bucket of cold water.
Gohan would tense immediately, clenching his fists, wondering who should stay out, while Trunks looked at Goku waiting for him to make the decision. For a moment, the silence took over the temple. Goku, calmly, would say that he would train with Gohan, that he needed to be stronger than ever, and that power would be key to defeat the androids. Trunks would understand the decision, knowing that not only Gohan was more powerful at that time, but that he was also good at spending more time with his father, taking him seriously, saying that he would wait for them, that he would not waste a second, and that when they left, they would fight together. His words carried the weight of someone who had already seen the end of the world. Thus, Goku and Gohan headed towards the entrance of the Room of Time.
Before crossing, Goku would turn to Trunks and tell him to trust them, that when they returned, everything would change. The doors closed behind them, and with that, the beginning of a year of brutal training for father and son. While outside, in the devastated world of the future, Trunks was waiting, training alone, hoping that time it would really be different. Inside the Room of Time, the training would be brutal from the first moment. Goku, with a firm serenity, would make Gohan understand that it was not enough to transform. He had to master his power, control it even under extreme exhaustion, hunger, and constant pain. The gravity crushed the body, the air burned the lungs, and the passage of time became indistinguishable. Goku, with a demanding but confident tone, would tell him to stop fighting like someone who already accepted to lose, to forget the devastated future for a moment, and fight as if he still had something to protect. Those words would fall deep into Gohan. With the passage of the months, Gohan would begin to change. His ki would become denser, more violent, but also more stable. On multiple occasions, pushed to the limit, his aura would explode in a different way, lightning bolts surrounding his body for brief moments. Goku would observe it with a serious smile, confirming that even if it was only for moments, his son was playing the Super Saiyan 2. Gohan, jaded and covered in wounds, with anger contained, would say that he felt something different, that his power wanted to overflow. Goku would tell him not to force it, that level would come when his mind and heart were ready, not just his body. The last stretch of training would be the hardest. Both would remain in the state of Super Saiyan for entire days, getting their bodies used to that power as if it were their natural form. Each punch would shake the white void of the place. Finally, when the year came to an end, both stopped in front of the exit. Goku, watching Gohan with pride contained, would tell him that he was ready, that now he did have the power to change the future. When the doors opened, the light of the temple enveloped them. Trunks, who trained alone not far away, would turn when he felt those presences and would be completely paralyzed. His eyes would open at the same time when he felt that monstrous, crushing, almost unreal ki. Trunks, with incredulity and a mixture of admiration and fear, would think if that was the true power of his master, and even more, of his master's father. He had never felt anything like that, not even in his worst battles against the androids. Gohan would advance a few steps, his calm but imposing aura, while Goku stretched naturally, as if nothing extraordinary had happened. Trunks, still shocked, could barely speak, understanding at that moment that for the first time since the world had fallen into darkness, hope was real. Gohan, understanding that simple advice was worth more than years of disordered training. Upon reaching the Capsule Corporation, silence and destruction would continue to be overwhelming. Bulma would receive them surprised to see the state in which the three were, and knowing that although she could not feel it, they had too much power. Gohan, with a voice full of hope, would ask if there was any way to restore everything, to bring back those who died, to return life to that broken world. Goku, with a calm that contrasted with the devastation around, would tell him that yes, that there was still a way. Without wasting time, Goku would close his eyes and concentrate his mind, looking for a familiar presence. After a few seconds, a familiar voice would respond. Kaiosama, completely surprised, would ask how it was possible that Goku was alive, explaining that in that timeline he had died years ago. Goku, with a calm smile, clarified that he came from the past, from another timeline, and that he needed crucial information. Goku would ask if he knew the exact coordinates of the planet Namek. Kaiosama, still disbelieving to hear that Goku would answer yes, asking what he needed them for. Hearing that he wanted to use the spheres of the Dragon of Namek to restore that future, Kaiosama would wait silent for a few seconds before giving him the exact coordinates, understanding the magnitude of what was about to happen. With the information in mind, Goku would open his eyes and look at Gohan, indicating that he would accompany him. Trunks would be surprised, asking what was happening, but Goku told him that he should stay protecting the Earth, that this was something that he and Gohan should do. Without saying much more, Goku would put 2 fingers on his forehead, concentrating. In an instant, both would disappear, leaving behind Trunks and Bulma, hoping that for the first time that future could be repaired. In the next second, father and son would appear on a green and quiet planet under 3 suns, feeling a pure and different energy. They had reached Namek, and with it, the first real step to return life to a world that everyone had already lost. Upon appearing in Namek, Goku and Gohan would be received almost immediately by Mori, the great patriarch. The old Namekian would open his eyes with surprise when he felt that energy, recognizing it instantly. With a calm voice, he would say that he felt a familiar ki that he never thought he would feel again from Son Goku. Goku would greet him with respect, tilting his head a little, and explained to him that he came from another timeline, that the Earth had been devastated by some androids, and that they needed the help of the Dragon Balls to restore that future. Gohan, serious, would add that they not only wanted to restore the planet, but also revive all those who died at the hands of those monsters. His words carried the weight of years of despair. Mori would listen to everything in silence, observing the faces of father and son. Finally, he would add, saying that if there was an opportunity to return hope to that world, Namek would help without hesitation. He would explain that Purunga could fulfill much greater wishes than Shenlong's, so there would be no problem. Without wasting time, Mori would gather the spheres and, raising his arms, he would invoke the eternal dragon. Namek's sky would darken, and a ray of light would give form to the gigantic Purunga, whose presence imposed absolute respect. Speaking in the ancient Namekian language, Mori would make the first wish, that all the damage caused by the androids on Earth were restored. Purunga, with his deep voice, would confirm the wish. At that very moment, in the Earth of the future, something impossible would begin to happen. Bulma and Trunks would observe with amazement how the destroyed cities were rebuilt before their eyes, buildings rising from the rubble, roads returning to their original state, nature regaining its place. The gray sky would seem to clear up for the first time in years. In the distance, the androids 17 and 18 would stop dry, looking around in confusion. They didn't understand what was happening, how the world they had reduced to ruins was rising without them being able to do anything. Back in Namek, Porunga would announce that the wish had been fulfilled.
The dragon would then ask with his imposing voice what would be the next wish. Gohan would squeeze his fists, feeling that for the first time the future was really changing. At that moment, Goku would look at Mori with determination and ask him to formulate the next wish, that Porunga would revive all those who fell fighting the androids. Mori would ascend, and raising his voice again in the Namekian language would transmit the wish to the dragon. Porunga would keep silent for a few seconds, his eyes shining with intensity, and would respond that it had been too long since the death of those people, that to fulfill that great wish he would have to consume the remaining 2 wishes. The atmosphere would become tense for a moment. Goku would not last. With a firm voice, he would say that it did not matter, that that wish was worth any price. Gohan, by his side, would close his eyes, containing the emotion. Porunga would accept. In the land of the future, reality would break again. In different parts of the planet, light flashes would begin to appear. Vegeta would arise in the same place where he had fallen, breathing hard, looking around him without understanding what had happened. Piccolo would reappear between ruins already restored, touching the ground with disbelief, feeling life flow again in his body. Tenshinhan, Yamcha, Chao, and many other warriors and civilians would return in the same way, confused, disoriented, wondering if that was the past or if they had really come back to life. The world, which for years was silent, would begin to fill with voices again. In Namek, Porunga would announce that the wish had been fulfilled, and without further ado, his huge figure would rise to the sky before disappearing, returning the spheres to their inert state. Goku would let out a deep sigh, closing his eyes for a moment. Then he would look at Mori with a sincere smile and thank him on behalf of the Earth, saying that he would never forget what Namek had done for them. Gohan would bow his head with respect, showing a gratitude that went beyond words. Mori would answer that as long as there was hope, the Namekians would always help. Without wasting any more time, Goku would put 2 fingers on his forehead and along with Gohan say goodbye. In a blink, both would disappear from Namek. The next moment, father and son would reappear on the land of the future, now unrecognizable compared to the dead world they had left behind. Gohan would look around him, with his eyes open side by side, realizing that for the first time that future had really been saved. At that moment, several presences began to approach quickly. Piccolo would be the first to arrive, followed by Vegeta, Trunks, Krillin, Tenshinhan, Yamcha, and the others. Everyone would stop almost at the same time when they felt that impossible key. Their gazes would be nailed on a figure they never expected to see again. Goku, standing and transformed into Super Saiyan, would be observed as if he were a ghost. Krillin would open his eyes side by side, unable to articulate a word, while Tenshinhan squeezed his teeth trying to understand what he was seeing. Vegeta, with tense arms, would stare at Goku, feeling a mixture of anger, hurt pride, and absolute astonishment. Piccolo, with a serious look and a deep look, would immediately notice something else. The young man next to him, without an arm, had the same ki as Gohan, but amplified, hardened by years of war. In his mind, the pieces would begin to fit. Gohan, with a firm and calm voice, would say that he understood his questions, but that it was a long story which would later be told calmly. Now there was something more important to do. Before anyone could insist, two familiar and hated energies would be present. Androids 17 and 18 would appear among the restored streets, observing the environment with an expression completely different from the usual. The cities were intact, people lived, and in front of them were the same warriors who had killed years ago. The android 18, with a crooked smile, would wonder how it was possible that everything had returned to normal, because the broken toys were back in place. Android 17, more serious, would look at Goku, wondering how in hell he was still alive if he was supposed to have died of an illness. The atmosphere would be absolute. The Z warriors would adopt combat positions by pure reflex, although the fear was still present in many of them. Then Goku and Gohan would take a step forward. Goku, with a calm smile and a confidence that would freeze the blood, would say that he did not owe them explanations, that their game had ended. Gohan, by his side, would close his eyes, containing the emotion. The androids would barely have time to react. In an instant, Goku would disappear in front of the android, reappearing next to him, hitting him with such force that his body would crash against the ground, breaking him like paper. Before he could get up, a second impact would leave him completely out of combat. At the same time, Gohan would launch himself against Android 17. His aura would explode, lightning bolts passing through his body for a brief moment. A single exchange would be enough, a clean, precise blow, loaded with all the pain of the future, would cross the defense of the android, leaving him motionless, defeated without possibility of response. The silence that followed would be absolute. The Z warriors would watch the scene with total disbelief. Vegeta would squeeze his fists, feeling how her pride burned when she understood how far she was from that power. Krillin would swallow saliva, unable to believe that the monsters that destroyed the world would have been defeated so easily. Piccolo, closing his eyes for a moment, accepted the truth. The future had changed. Goku and Gohan would stand, with their golden auras slowly dissipating, while behind them, for the first time in many years, the land of the future knew the true silence of peace. Hours later, with calm finally settling, everyone would gather at the Kami-sama temple. The atmosphere was strange, filled with contained emotions. There, after hearing the complete explanation, the Z warriors would finish understanding the truth. Goku did not belong to that timeline. He was a visitor from another time, from another destiny. Krillin, still disbelieving, would look at Goku as if he feared that he would disappear at any moment. Piccolo, with his arms crossed, accepted the logic of everything. The flow of time could not sustain Goku for much longer. Vegeta, in silence, would look away, clenching his teeth, realizing that that Saiyajin who had overcome him wasn't even from his world. Goku, with a calm smile, would say that it was time to return, that that future had been saved, and now he should not interfere anymore.
I would add that when they revived Goku from that line, when the medicine made its effect and fate changed, I hoped they would not forget him, that in the end, everyone had fought together. The words would resonate strongly. Trunks would feel respected, saying that thanks to him, that world had had a second chance, that he would never forget what he did. Vegeta would turn his head slightly without saying anything, but his silence would be more eloquent than any word. Then Goku would turn to Gohan. Father and son would look at each other for a few seconds. Goku would take a step forward and hug him tightly, a long, sincere hug, loaded with everything they could never live together in that future. Gohan, with a broken voice, would say that this time everything had gone well, that he had finally fulfilled his promise. Goku would answer that he was proud of him, that he had become an incredible warrior and an even better person. Then Goku would separate and look at Trunks, placing a hand on his shoulder, telling him that now he had enough power to protect his timeline, that the androids would no longer be a threat, and that, in addition, thanks to the medicine, that Goku would not die from the heart. The future, for the first time, was really safe. With a last smile directed at everyone, Goku would put 2 fingers on his forehead. I would tell them to take good care of that world, to enjoy the peace that it took so long to achieve. In an instant, Suki would disappear. The silence would return to the temple. Gohan would close his eyes, breathing deeply, while Trunks observed the sky, knowing that that meeting had changed his destiny forever. Far from there, in another timeline, Goku would reappear in his own time, with a firm heart, the disease no longer a threat, aware that with his power he would be able to defeat the androids. For this point in history, Goku's power would be higher than the power he had in Cell's games, since he trained with a partner already with the Super Saiyan and with a higher power, while Gohan's power in the future in this case was equal to his father's. If this video is to your liking and you want part 2, I will be asking for 150 likes for more.